Now, if I came to you and I said,
Hey, listen, there's a lot of bald-headed people in London, and we want to eliminate baldness. So I'm proposing that we add 1 part per million of motor oil into the water supply to eliminate slapheads in the London population. We've got a lot of scientists here with PhDs, and they've done extensive research, along with the army, of course, and we've concluded that when we add 1 part per million of motor oil into the water supply, it eliminates, alleviates, or benefits baldness. Check out my big brain!
let's suppose you folks all believe that. So we put the motor oil in the water supply, and we do this for 50 years, and we're all convinced. Yet there's still some baldness around, like there's still some tooth decay around today. So some concerned group comes along and says,
Hmm, maybe we ought to test this scientifically. Maybe we ought to take a look at some people over in Manchester or Liverpool, where they don't have any motor oil in their water supply. Let's take a look at the rate of baldness in those places.
so they do all the surveys and they say,
Well, sweet Lord! There isn't any difference in the rate of baldness between London, Manchester and Liverpool. Whatsoever! Who'd have thunk it?
what would that tell you? Now, I think it would tell you that motor oil doesn't prevent baldness. In this instance, in the case of fluoride, it demonstrates that fluoridation does absolutely nothing to prevent tooth decay in children, or anyone else for that matter. In fact, a larger study has been conducted in New Zealand. The New Zealand National Health Service Plan examined the teeth of every child in key age groups, and they found that the teeth of children in non-fluoridated cities were slightly better than those in the fluoridated cities. It hasn't been conclusively proven that fluoridation causes tooth decay, but there is definitely proof that it doesn't prevent tooth decay. However, the addition of motor oil to the water supply might cause some other problems that hadn't been anticipated, which is what happened with fluoride. Even those who aren't convinced of the toxic effects of fluoride should be concerned about the level of fluoride added to the water supply. The optimum level was set in the 1940s at approximately 1 part per million, assuming that only 4 glasses of water would be drunk in a 24-hour period. So you have 1 million parts of water and 1 part fluoride. I wonder how they get that 1 part per million. You ever thought about that? Perhaps they run 1 million gallons of water through the water treatment plant and then put in a gallon of fluoride. I wonder if they can get that concentration of that fluoride down to exactly 1 part per million throughout the batch. Or if perhaps it's 1 part per billion in some parts of the water, and maybe 50 parts per million in other parts of the water supply. Which means that some people might be getting a little more than their fair share of 1 part per million, and others may not be getting what they're paying for. Now, I can only presume that if what they're telling us is true, we're all getting exactly the same amount of 1 part per million, and that amount is safe. I am left wondering, though, how safe poison can be. If you want a surefire way of getting a sense of how much chlorine and fluoride is in your drinking water, try this. Just fill a standard plastic bottle to within a couple of inches from the top with tap water. Put the lid on tight and leave it for about 20 to 30 minutes. Then loosen the cap next to your nose, give the bottle a slight squeeze and take a good sniff of the gases that are released in half an hour. You like that? That's the pungent scent of toxic chemicals, and you're sucking them down like there's a drought coming. Now, you might be sitting there thinking,
Come on, AT, you big dummy. Why don't you just drink bottled water? It's cheap enough and at least you know it's pure.
you might have a point there, if they weren't now adding fluoride to the bottled stuff too. Don't take my word for it. Do an internet search or take a look at the labels. Drinking water isn't the biggest problem. And believe it or not, I have to bathe or shower once or twice a year. And if you're a city dweller but still have a sense of smell, you'll notice the pungent smell of fluoride and chlorine as you're toweling yourself dry. The largest elimination organ of your body is your skin, which also absorbs toxins quite effectively too. In 2000, a group of Boston physicians concluded, studies in animal and human populations suggest that fluoride exposure at levels that are experienced by a significant proportion of the population whose drinking water is fluoridated may have adverse impacts on the developing brain. In other words, if you want your child to have learning difficulties, feed him lots of fluoride. Actually, if you live in an area with a fluoridated supply, you don't even have to do that. Just encourage him to stay in the bath longer or take longer showers. That way, although he'll only ever be about as sharp as a wooden spoon, At least it'll be a particularly clean one. Now, I know there's someone listening to this saying, good God, AT, we've got to put something in the drinking water in order to kill the bacteria in there. Otherwise, we'd all be dying of cholera or typhus or some other infectious disease. Well, in the likes of Moscow, Paris, and a few other more sensible places around the world, they still manage to clean up the water supply, but they don't use poison, they use ozone. Now, Japan, with no fluoridation at all, has the lowest infant death rate in the world, and also has the longest life expectancy. What are these people thinking about? What do they want to do, live forever? But current intake of fluoride comes not just from the water supply. In a study conducted by researchers at the University of Iowa and reported in the November issue of the Journal of the American Dental Association, found that 71% of more than 300 soft drinks contained 0.60 parts per million fluoride. Toothpaste, processed food, fresh fruits and vegetables, vitamins and mineral supplements all contribute to the intake of fluoride. In fact, it's now estimated that the total amount of fluoride ingested per day is 8 times the optimum levels. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, there's no point in getting excited or upset because there's nothing I can do about it. Well, yes, there is. It's called activated charcoal, and it's very cheap. It absorbs 60,000 times its own weight in toxic material. Activated charcoal will absorb the fluoride, and you can buy it easily enough. It would certainly be a good idea to take the time to explore that option. And you can still buy activated charcoal in capsule form from your local health shop. And you can also buy it in powder form. Dissolve it in a glass of water or milk and drink it that way, if you're not one for taking tablets. They haven't banned it yet, but chances are they will. As a point of interest, activated charcoal is used by the Jack Daniel's distillery to filter the toxic products during production. That's why it's such a damn fine mellow whiskey, in case you didn't know. JD on the rocks. My poison of choice.
Dennis, let's make sure we're clear on this. Fluoride, it is in tea, it's in coffee, it's in water, it's in bread, it's in toothpaste, but it's actually a poison, right?
It sure is, and here's the quickest evidence. Go to your bathroom and pick up your toothpaste, and you'll see a warning that if a child swallows more than a pea-sized amount of toothpaste, call poison control.
And our kids are being told to brush their teeth 3 times a day. Use only a pea-sized amount for children under 6. I laughed out loud when I saw that particular gem for the first time. If I were in the toothpaste business, I'd take the damn fluoride out of it and say, go on guys, swallow this stuff. Put it on your toothbrush from the bristles over the entire handle and halfway up your arm. Use as much toothpaste as you possibly can, so that you run out of it sooner and come back and buy some more. Anyone with 2 brain cells to rub together would have to say, you've got to be as dumb as a post to leave a toxin like that in your food supply, especially if you're the toothpaste company. I don't know what the hell these toothpaste manufacturers are thinking about. They must be either certifiable or as bent as a dog's hind leg. They're not putting that fluoride in there because they want to sell us less toothpaste, but they've obviously wanted it in there for some reason. Your guess is as good as mine. I'm just giving you the facts here. I mean, why would a company like Procter & Gamble want to restrict toothpaste sales by including a deadly poison, which causes tens of thousands of calls to the Center for Poison Control every year? Whatever the reason is, it's something big, and it's something serious, and it has more to do with delivering the fluoride than it does with selling the toothpaste. I would assert they're in the business of delivering fluoride to you. They need a vehicle. The objective is to sell fluoride, and there has to be a reason for that.